15 Things Poor People Do That the Rich Don't. Introduction. Money. It's something we all think about, talk about, stress about, lose sleep over, and sometimes fight about. Whether you're a CEO or a cashier, a business owner or a barista, money touches every corner of your life. It determines where you live, what you eat, how you raise your children, and how you spend your retirement years. And yet, despite how important money is to our daily lives, most of us never received a proper education about how to manage it, grow it, or make it work for us. Have you ever looked around and wondered why some people seem to accumulate wealth effortlessly, while others, working just as hard or even harder, struggle to make ends meet? The answer isn't always about income. Some people earning six figures live paycheck to paycheck, while others earning modest salaries quietly build substantial wealth over time. The difference often lies not in how much money someone makes, but in what they do with it once they have it. The truth is, wealth is built through habits, daily decisions, and patterns of behavior that either move you toward financial freedom or keep you trapped in a cycle of financial stress. These habits aren't always obvious. In fact, many of them are so ingrained in our culture that we don't even realize we're doing them. We inherit them from our parents, absorb them from our friends, and reinforce them through our own choices. But here's the exciting part: habits can be changed. You don't have to be trapped by the financial patterns of your past. You can learn new ways of thinking about money, new strategies for building wealth, and new habits that will transform your financial future. The rich aren't smarter than you. They aren't luckier than you. They've simply adopted different habits, and you can too. In this article, we're going to explore 15 things that poor people do that the rich simply don't. These aren't judgments or criticisms, they're observations about patterns that keep people stuck in financial struggle. For each one, we'll use real-life examples and stories to show you exactly how these patterns play out and how you can break free from them. Whether you're just starting your financial journey, deep in debt, or somewhere in between, this article is for you. Let's dive in. Chapter 1. Living paycheck to paycheck without a plan. The cycle of living paycheck to paycheck. One of the most common things that keeps people poor is living paycheck to paycheck without any kind of financial plan. This isn't just about not having a budget, it's about having no clear direction for where your money is going or how it's supposed to work for you. It's like getting in your car every morning and driving without a destination in mind. You'll burn fuel, but you'll never arrive anywhere. When you live paycheck to paycheck, every dollar that comes in goes right back out. There's no buffer, no emergency fund, and no safety net. One unexpected expense, a car repair, a medical bill, a broken appliance, and suddenly you're in crisis mode. You're borrowing from friends, putting things on credit cards, or worse, taking out payday loans with astronomical interest rates that can trap you in a cycle of debt for years. The rich, on the other hand, treat every dollar like a soldier on a mission. They give each dollar a job before it even arrives. They know exactly how much they need for necessities, how much goes to savings, how much goes to investments, and how much is available for discretionary spending. This isn't about being cheap or depriving yourself, it's about being intentional with the resources you have. Research from the Federal Reserve shows that nearly 40% of Americans couldn't cover an unexpected $400 expense without borrowing money or selling something. That's a staggering statistic. It means that almost half the country is one flat tire away from financial disaster. And the reason isn't that they don't make enough money, it's that they don't have a plan for the money they do make. Story: The Paycheck to Paycheck Trap. Take the story of Marcus and Lisa. Marcus worked as a warehouse supervisor earning $52,000 a year. Lisa worked part-time as a dental assistant, bringing in about $28,000. Together, they made $80,000, a solid income in most parts of the country. Yet by the time each month ended, they had nothing left. In fact, they were often short by the last week of the month. Their money went to rent $1,800, car payments $600 for 2 cars, groceries $600, utilities $250, insurance $300, phone bills $150, and the rest disappeared into a black hole of impulse buys, takeout food, subscriptions they forgot about, and small purchases that added up without them noticing. $7 latte here, $15 lunch there, $25 Amazon purchase. None of these felt significant in the moment, but they added up to hundreds of dollars every month. When their car broke down and needed $1,200 repair, they had to put it on a credit card. That $1,200 turned into $1,500 with interest over the next year, and they still hadn't paid it off. Then their daughter needed braces $3,000 out of pocket after insurance. Another credit card. Then the washing machine died. Another $800 on yet another card. They were stuck in a cycle that felt impossible to escape. Every time they caught up on one expense, another one appeared. They were working hard, earning decent money, but they felt like they were running on a treadmill going nowhere fast. The turning point came when Lisa's mother visited for Thanksgiving and noticed how stressed they both seemed. Over dinner, she gave them a simple piece of advice. Track every dollar for 1 month. Just write it down. Don't change anything, just see where it goes. They were skeptical, but they did it. Lisa downloaded a free budgeting app and they linked their bank accounts and credit cards. Every transaction was automatically categorized and tracked. They didn't change their behavior, they just observed. What they found shocked them. They were spending $400 a month on eating out restaurants, fast food, coffee shops, delivery apps. They were spending $200 on subscription services they barely used, 3 streaming platforms, a music service, a gym membership they'd used twice in 6 months, a magazine subscription, and several app subscriptions they'd forgotten about. They were spending another $300 on random impulse purchases at Target, Amazon, and other online retailers, things they bought on a whim and often never used. Total invisible spending, $900 a month. Over $10,000 a year, money that was literally vanishing without improving their lives in any meaningful way. With that awareness, they created a simple budget. They cut the subscriptions they didn't use, reducing that line item from $200 to $50. They reduced eating out to twice a month instead of almost daily, saving $300 a month. They implemented a 24-hour rule for any non-essential purchase over $30. If they still wanted it after 24 hours, they could buy it. Most of the time, they didn't. They also set up automatic transfers to a savings account, $200 on each payday. They didn't even notice it was missing, because it happened before they had a chance to spend it. Within 6 months, they had $3,000 in emergency savings. Within a year, they had paid off one credit card entirely and started investing in their company 401k plans. Within 3 years, they were completely debt-free except for their mortgage, had $15,000 in savings, and were investing $500 a month for retirement. The lesson? A plan, even a simple one, is the difference between surviving and thriving. Marcus and Lisa didn't get raises. They didn't change jobs. They didn't inherit money. They just started paying attention to where their money was going and making intentional decisions about it. How the rich do it differently. Wealthy people don't leave their finances to chance. They use tools like budgeting apps, spreadsheets, or financial advisors to track their spending and set goals. They automate their savings so they don't have to rely on willpower. And they review their finances regularly, weekly or monthly, to make sure they're on track. Many wealthy people follow the pay yourself first principle. Before they pay any bills, before they spend anything on necessities, they transfer a set amount to savings and investment accounts. This ensures that their financial future is prioritized, not an afterthought. The key isn't perfection. It's awareness and intention. When you know where your money is going, you can start directing it toward things that actually improve your life instead of letting it slip through your fingers. Chapter 2. Buying things to impress others. The trap of keeping up appearances. There's a saying that rich people stay rich by living like they're poor, and poor people stay poor by living like they're rich. This couldn't be more true. One of the biggest things that keeps people from building wealth is spending money to impress other people who, by the way, aren't thinking about you nearly as much as you think they are. This looks like driving a brand new car when a reliable used one would do the same job. Wearing designer clothes when a good quality off-brand shirt looks just as nice. Living in a house you can barely afford because it's in the right neighborhood. Or buying the latest iPhone every year when last year's model works perfectly fine. The psychological term for this is conspicuous consumption, spending money on visible luxury goods to signal social status. And it's one of the most expensive habits a person can have. According to a study by Thomas Stanley, author of The Millionaire Next Door, the majority of millionaires in America don't look like millionaires. They drive modest cars, live in middle-class neighborhoods, and wear regular clothes. They've built their wealth by focusing on substance over style. The rich don't play this game. In fact, many of the wealthiest people are famously frugal. Warren Buffett still lives in the same house he bought in 1958 for $31,500, a home now worth millions, but he's never felt the need to upgrade. Mark Zuckerberg drives a simple Honda. Jeff Bezos was spotted driving a 1996 Honda Accord long after he became a billionaire. They understand that wealth isn't about what you show, it's about what you keep. Story: the car payment trap. Meet Darnell. He was 24 years old, just starting his career as a software developer, making $75,000 a year. That's a great salary, especially for someone just out of college. But Darnell had a problem. All his friends were driving nice cars. His buddy had a BMW 3 Series. Another friend had a brand new Mustang GT. A third friend leased a Mercedes. Darnell felt like his 2015 Honda Civic just didn't cut it. He felt like he was being left behind, like everyone else had made it and he was still driving an economy car. So he walked into an Audi dealership. The salesperson was smooth, showed him the latest models, let him test drive the A4, talked about how it would change his image and how people notice what you drive. Darnell signed the papers and drove out in a shiny new Audi A4. The monthly payment? $680. With insurance, his car costs exceeded $800 a month. At first, Darnell loved it. He felt successful. People complimented his car. His friends were impressed. He felt like he had made it. But after a few months, the reality set in. That $800 a month, $9,600 a year could have been going toward his student loans, his savings, or an investment account. Instead, it was going to a depreciating asset that would be worth half as much in 3 years. The financial pressure started to mount. Darnell found himself cutting back on other things, eating out less, skipping vacations, declining social invitations, because he couldn't afford them. He was house poor, except it was car poor. He was driving a luxury car but couldn't afford to live a luxury life. Meanwhile, his friend who drove the BMW, his parents bought it for him as a graduation gift. And the friend with the Mustang? He was drowning in credit card debt and couldn't afford to go out with friends anymore because every penny went to his car payment. He was actually considering selling the car and buying a used Honda, but his pride wouldn't let him. Darnell eventually came to a realization. He was 26 years old, paying $800 a month for a car that was losing value every day, while his net worth was actually going down because of it. He was paying to look rich while getting poorer. He sold the Audi after 2 years, taking in $8,000 loss. He bought a used Toyota Camry for $15,000 cash. His monthly car costs dropped from $800 to $250, insurance and gas, no car payment. That freed up $550 a month. Darnell immediately redirected that $550. He used $300 to accelerate his student loan payments and $250 to start investing in a Roth IRA. Within 3 years, he had paid off all his student loans and had over $25,000 in his investment account. Within 5 years, he had over $100,000 invested. By 30, he was financially ahead of all his friends who were still making car payments. Darnell later said that buying the Audi was his most expensive mistake, but also his most valuable lesson. He learned that the things you buy to impress others are often the very things keeping you from building real wealth. The lesson: the things you buy to impress others are often the very things keeping you from building real wealth. The rich focus on building assets, not displaying status. They know that true financial security comes from having money in the bank, not a fancy car in the driveway or designer labels on your clothes. Before making any purchase, ask yourself, am I buying this because I need it or because I want others to see it? If it's the latter, you might be paying a price far higher than the sticker price. Chapter 3. Avoiding financial education. Knowledge is the ultimate currency. You can't manage money well if you don't understand how money works. Yet one of the most common things among people who stay poor is a refusal or reluctance to learn about personal finance. They avoid reading books about money. They don't listen to financial podcasts. They skip articles about investing. And they certainly don't take courses on wealth building. This isn't usually because they're lazy or unintelligent. It's often because money is stressful, and learning about it feels overwhelming. Or they grew up in households where money was never discussed or was discussed only in terms of stress and scarcity, so it feels foreign and intimidating. Some people believe that financial education is only for rich people or for people with finance degrees. They think you need to be good at math or have a lot of money to start investing. None of this is true. Personal finance is, as the name suggests, personal. It's not about complex formulas or Wall Street jargon. It's about understanding a few basic principles that anyone can learn. Spend less than you earn, save consistently, invest wisely, avoid bad debt, and let compound interest work for you. The rich, by contrast, are lifelong learners when it comes to money. They read voraciously. They seek advice from mentors. They study other successful people, and they're always looking for ways to improve their financial knowledge. They understand that the more they know about money, the better decisions they'll make and the faster they'll build wealth. According to a study by Dr. Thomas Corley, who spent 5 years studying the daily habits of 233 wealthy people, 88% of wealthy people read for at least 30 minutes every day on topics related to self-improvement, financial education, or personal development. Compare that to just 2% of poor people who do the same. That's a massive gap. Story. The Power of a $15 book. Consider the story of Angela. She was a single mom, working as a receptionist, earning $35,000 a year. She loved her daughter more than anything, but she felt stuck. She wanted to provide more for her: better clothes, better food, maybe a tutor for math. But every time she got a raise, something else went up: rent, childcare, groceries, and she was right back where she started. She was working harder than ever but getting nowhere. One day, a coworker mentioned a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Angela had never heard of it, but she was curious. She bought it for $15 at the bookstore and read it in a weekend. Something clicked. For the first time, Angela understood the difference between assets and liabilities. She realized that her car, which she thought was an asset because it was worth money, was actually a liability because it cost her money every month in payments, insurance, gas, and maintenance. She realized that the rich don't work for money, they make money work for them. She realized that financial independence wasn't about earning a lot of money, it was about keeping and growing what you earn. That one book changed her entire perspective. It also led to another book, and another. Angela started listening to financial podcasts during her commute, shows about budgeting, investing, and wealth building. She read The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey and created a debt snowball plan to pay off her credit cards. She read The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins and learned about index fund investing. She read The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel and understood why she made the financial decisions she did. The knowledge didn't just inform her, it transformed her. She went from making financial decisions based on emotion and habit to making them based on information and strategy. Within 3 years, Angela had paid off all her credit card debt, $8,500, built a 6-month emergency fund, $12,000, and started investing in a Roth IRA. She went from $0 in savings to $20,000 in net worth, all because she invested $15 in a book and a few hours of her time. Angela's income didn't change much during those 3 years. She got a small raise to $38,000. But her financial life changed dramatically because she changed how she thought about and handled money. The lesson: financial education isn't optional if you want to build wealth. The rich invest in their financial knowledge constantly. They know that the more they learn, the more they earn, and more importantly, the more they keep. The good news? Financial education has never been more accessible. There are thousands of free resources, online blogs, YouTube channels, podcasts, and library books. You don't need to spend thousands on courses. You just need to start learning. Start with one book. Listen to one podcast. Read one article. The knowledge will compound just like money does. Small investments in learning lead to massive returns over time. Chapter 4. Having no emergency fund. The danger of flying without a net. Life is unpredictable. Cars break down. People get sick. Jobs get lost. Appliances fail. Children need braces. Roofs leak. These aren't possibilities, they're certainties. The question isn't whether these things will happen, but when and whether you'll be prepared. One of the most dangerous things that poor people do is live without any emergency savings. They're one unexpected expense away from financial disaster. When something goes wrong, they have no choice but to turn to credit cards, payday loans, or borrowing from friends and family, options that often come with high interest rates or strained relationships. The rich, on the other hand, always have a safety net. They keep 3 to 6 months of living expenses in an easily accessible account, not because they're paranoid, but because they know that emergencies aren't a matter of if, but when. They also understand that having an emergency fund isn't just about financial protection, it's about psychological freedom. When you know you can handle whatever life throws at you, you sleep better, make better decisions, and take calculated risks that can accelerate your wealth building. Financial experts generally recommend keeping 3 to 6 months of living expenses in a liquid, easily accessible account. For most people, that means a high-yield savings account somewhere the money is safe, earns a little interest, and can be accessed within a day or two. The starting point is $1,000. If you have nothing saved, getting to $1,000 is your first goal. That amount covers most common emergencies: a car repair, a medical bill, an appliance replacement. It won't solve everything, but it will keep you from going into debt over ordinary life events. Story: the $500 emergency that changed everything. Kevin and Maria were a young couple, both working full-time. Kevin was a teacher earning $45,000, and Maria worked in marketing earning $50,000. They had decent jobs, a nice apartment, and what they thought was a comfortable life. What they didn't have was savings. Their checking account hovered around $200, $400 most months, and they had no savings account at all. One morning, Kevin woke up to find water flooding their bathroom. A pipe had burst overnight, and their bathroom and parts of their bedroom were ruined. The carpet was soaked, the drywall was damaged, and some personal items were destroyed. The landlord said it wasn't his responsibility, because Kevin hadn't reported a slow leak that had apparently been building for months. Kevin had noticed a small damp spot on the wall but hadn't thought much of it. Now he was paying the price. The damage was extensive. They needed to replace flooring, drywall, paint, and some personal items that were ruined. The total cost? About $4,500. They had $200 in their checking account and $0 in savings. They also had $3,000 in credit card debt from previous expenses. They put everything on credit cards. The interest rate was 24%. Over the next 2 years, they paid back $6,000, $1,500 more than the original damage because they couldn't afford to pay more than the minimum payments. That one event set them back years. It wasn't just the money, it was the stress, the arguments about finances, the feeling of being trapped. Contrast that with their friends, Derek and Tanya, who were in a similar financial situation but had a different approach. Derek and Tanya had $8,000 in a high-yield savings account designated as their emergency fund. They'd built it over 2 years by automating $150 per paycheck into the account. When their car's transmission failed, costing $2,800, they simply transferred the money, got the car fixed, and went on with their lives. No stress, no debt, no interest payments, no arguments. They treated it as an inconvenience, not a crisis. The same type of event, a major unexpected expense, had completely different outcomes because of one thing: preparation. Derek and Tanya weren't richer than Kevin and Maria. They just had a system in place that protected them. How to build an emergency fund. Building an emergency fund doesn't happen overnight, but it starts with a decision and a plan. 1. Start small. Even $500 can cover many emergencies and keep you from going into debt. 2. Automate it. Set up automatic transfers to a separate savings account. Even $25 a week adds up to $1,300 a year. 3. Keep it separate. Don't use your regular checking account. Put it somewhere that's accessible but not too easy to dip into. 4. Gradually build to 3-6 months of expenses. This is your ultimate safety net. 5. Use any windfalls, tax refunds, bonuses, birthday money. Put a portion directly into your emergency fund. The rich understand that an emergency fund isn't just about money, it's about peace of mind. When you know you can handle whatever life throws at you, you sleep better, make better decisions, and take calculated risks that can accelerate your wealth building. Chapter 5. Relying on a single income stream. The fragility of one paycheck. If your only source of income is your job, you're in a vulnerable position. No matter how secure your job feels, you're one layoff, one company restructuring, or one industry downturn away from losing everything. This is a reality that millions of people learned the hard way during economic recessions, industry disruptions, and global pandemics. Poor people tend to rely entirely on their job for income. They trade their time for money, and when that time stops being traded, the money stops coming. There's no backup plan, no alternative income source, and no safety net. If they lose their job, they lose their income, and within weeks or months, they lose everything else too. The rich understand this deeply. That's why they build multiple streams of income. They don't put all their eggs in one basket. They have their primary income, usually a job or business, but they also have investments that generate passive income, side businesses that bring in extra cash, rental properties that provide monthly income, or intellectual property that earns royalties. According to Thomas Stanley's research on millionaires, the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. That doesn't mean they have 7 jobs, it means they have diversified their income sources so that no single event can wipe them out. Story. From one paycheck to 5 income streams. Rachel was a high school English teacher earning $50,000 a year. She loved teaching, but she also felt limited by her salary. She had $25,000 in student loans, wanted to save for a house, and dreamed of traveling the world. But with one income, she could barely cover her expenses, let alone save or invest. Rachel started small. She began tutoring students after school and on weekends, earning an extra $500 a month. She used that money to pay down her credit card debt first, then her student loans. Once the high-interest debt was gone, she started saving. She then learned about self-publishing on Amazon. She had always loved writing and had several manuscript drafts sitting on her computer. She polished one, a romance novel, and published it as an ebook. It made $200 the first month. Not much, but it was something. Encouraged, she wrote another book and another. She learned about cover design, keywords, and marketing. Within a year, her books were bringing in $1,500 a month and royalties, a passive income stream that required only occasional maintenance. With that extra income, Rachel started investing in index funds through a brokerage account. She learned about dividend stocks and built a portfolio that now pays her $300 a month in dividends. She didn't need that money for expenses, so she reinvested it, allowing compound interest to work its magic. Rachel also bought a small duplex with an FHA loan, putting just 3.5% down. She lived in one unit and rented out the other. The rental income covered her entire mortgage payment, meaning she was essentially living for free. The property was also appreciating in value, building her equity every month. Today, Rachel has 5 income streams. Her teaching salary $50,000/year, tutoring $6,000/year, book royalties $18,000/year, dividend investments $3,600/year and growing, and rental income covering her $1,800/month mortgage. She's still a teacher because she loves it, but she's no longer dependent on it. If she ever lost her teaching job, she'd be just fine. More importantly, Rachel has options. She could quit teaching and still pay all her bills. She could take a sabbatical to travel. She could retire early. She has financial freedom not because she earns a lot, but because she's diversified. The lesson: building multiple income streams takes time and effort, but it's one of the most powerful things you can do for your financial security. The rich don't just work for money, they find ways to make money work for them, even while they sleep. Start by identifying skills or assets you already have that could generate extra income. Could you freelance? Teach a skill? Invest in dividend stocks? Rent out a room? Write a book? Start a small online business? The possibilities are endless, you just have to start. Chapter 6: Putting Consumption Before Investment. Spent now vs. build later. There's a fundamental difference in how poor people and rich people think about money. Poor people tend to see money as something to spend. When they get a raise or a bonus, their first thought is, what can I buy? They upgrade their lifestyle immediately: a nicer apartment, a better car, new clothes, nicer restaurants. The extra money disappears into consumption, and they're right back where they started. Rich people, on the other hand, see money as something to invest. When they get a raise or a bonus, their first thought is, how can I make this grow? They don't increase their lifestyle with every raise. Instead, they direct the extra money toward assets that will generate more income in the future. This is the foundation of wealth building. The concept is called the gap, the difference between what you earn and what you spend. The wider the gap, the more money you have to invest. Poor people have a narrow gap or no gap at all because they spend everything they earn. Rich people have a wide gap because they live below their means and invest the difference. Story: the coffee shop test. Imagine 2 coworkers, both earning $60,000 a year. Both get a $5,000 raise at the end of the year. Same company, same raise, same starting point. But watch what happens when they make different choices. Worker A thinks, great, I can finally upgrade my apartment, get a nicer car, and start eating at better restaurants. He signs a lease on a more expensive apartment, $300 more per month, leases a new car, $200 more per month, and starts dining out 3 times a week instead of once. He also upgrades his wardrobe, gets a nicer gym membership, and starts going to more concerts and events. Within a year, the $5,000 raise is completely absorbed by his new lifestyle and then some. He actually feels poorer than before, because his expenses have grown faster than his income. He feels richer, but his bank account tells a different story. Worker B thinks, great, I can invest this. He puts $3,000 into a Roth IRA, uses $1,000 to pay down his student loans faster, and keeps $1,000 as fun money. He doesn't change his lifestyle at all. He still lives in the same apartment, drives the same car, and eats at the same restaurants. His friends think he's being cheap, but he knows something they don't. The $3,000 he invested grows at an average rate of 8% per year. In 30 years, that single $3,000 investment will be worth over $30,000. And if he continues investing $3,000 every year for 30 years, he'll have over $339,000. Same raise, completely different outcomes. The math behind it: let's look at the numbers more carefully. If worker B invests $5,000 every year for 30 years at an 8% return, he'll have approximately $566,000. If worker A spends that same $5,000 every year on lifestyle upgrades, he'll have nothing. He might even be in debt. That $5,000 per year, invested consistently, is the difference between retiring comfortably at 60 and working until you're 75 or never being able to retire at all. This is the power of investing early and consistently. It's not about being cheap or depriving yourself. It's about prioritizing your future self. The rich understand that every dollar they invest today is a dollar that can work for them for decades. Every dollar they spend on consumption is a dollar that can never work for them again. How to start investing? You don't need a lot of money to start investing. Many platforms allow you to start with as little as $50. Here's a simple approach. 1. Start with your employer's retirement plan, especially if they offer a match. That's free money, literally a 100% return on your investment. 2. Open a Roth IRA and contribute what you can, even $50 a month as a start. 3. Invest in low-cost index funds that track the overall market. You don't need to pick individual stocks. 4. Automate your contributions so you don't have to think about it. 5. Reinvest your dividends. This accelerates compound growth. The key is to start now. Time is the most valuable asset in investing, and every year you wait is a year of potential growth you'll never get back. Chapter 7. Having a poor relationship with debt. Good debt vs. bad debt. Not all debt is created equal. There is good debt, debt that helps you build wealth, and bad debt, debt that destroys it. Poor people often don't understand this distinction, and they either avoid all debt, including good debt, or use bad debt freely without understanding the consequences. Good debt is debt that finances something that will grow in value or generate income. A mortgage on a rental property is good debt because the property generates rental income and appreciates in value. A student loan for a degree that leads to a high-paying career can be good debt. Business debt that helps you grow a profitable company can be good debt. Bad debt is debt that finances consumption. Credit card debt from buying clothes, furniture, electronics, or vacations is bad debt. A car loan for a vehicle that depreciates the moment you drive it off the lot is generally bad debt. Payday loans where interest rates can exceed 400% APR are almost always bad debt. The rich use debt strategically. They borrow to buy assets that generate income, and they pay off bad debt as quickly as possible. The poor, on the other hand, often accumulate bad debt without a clear plan for paying it off. Story. 2 friends. 2 approaches to debt. Sarah and Jennifer were best friends who graduated from college at the same time. Both had $30,000 in student loans. Both earned similar starting salaries, but their approaches to debt were completely different. Sarah took a conservative approach. She lived below her means, drove a used car she bought for $8,000, and threw every extra dollar at her student loans. She set up automatic payments that were higher than the minimum, and any extra money she earned, bonuses, tax refunds, side gig income, went directly to the loans. She paid them off in 4 years. Once debt-free, Sarah started investing. She bought a small condo with a 20% down payment, rented out the spare room, and used the rental income to help pay down the mortgage. She maxed out her 401k contributions and opened a Roth IRA. By 35, she owned her condo outright and had $80,000 in investments. She was well on her way to financial independence. Jennifer took a different approach. After paying the minimum on her student loans, she used her credit cards to furnish her apartment, buy new clothes, and go on vacations. She told herself she deserved it after working hard in college. She justified every purchase. I work hard, I deserve nice things. She bought designer purses, ate at expensive restaurants, and took international trips she couldn't afford. By 30, she had $15,000 in credit card debt on top of her $30,000 in student loans. Her minimum payments consumed almost half her paycheck. She was paying $600 a month just in minimum payments, and that was barely covering the interest. Her principal wasn't going down at all. The turning point came when her car broke down. She needed $2,000 to fix it, but she had no savings and no available credit. She had to borrow from her parents, which was humiliating. Her father gave her the money but said, "You need to get your financial life together." That conversation and the shame that came with it was the wake-up call she needed. Jennifer got serious about debt. She created a budget, stopped using her credit cards, she cut them up literally, and started the debt snowball method, paying off her smallest debts first for quick wins. She picked up a second job delivering food on weekends. It took her 3 years, but she eventually became debt-free. Now, at 35, both Sarah and Jennifer are debt-free. But Sarah got there 5 years earlier and used those 5 years to build wealth. Jennifer is playing catch-up, but she's on the right track. The lesson is clear: how you handle debt determines your financial trajectory. The lesson: debt can be a tool or a trap. The rich use debt strategically to build wealth. They borrow to buy assets that generate income, and they pay off bad debt as quickly as possible. The key is understanding the difference and being intentional about which debts you take on. If you have bad debt, make paying it off a priority. Use the debt snowball or debt avalanche method. And once you're debt-free, stay that way except for strategic investments in assets like real estate or business. Chapter 8. Not setting clear financial goals. The power of written goals. You've probably heard the saying, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. This is especially true with money. Poor people often have vague financial ideas. I want to be rich. I want to be comfortable. I want to not worry about money, but they don't have specific, written goals with deadlines. Research has consistently shown that people who write down their goals are significantly more likely to achieve them. A study by Dr. Gail Matthews at Dominican University found that people who wrote down their goals were 42% more likely to achieve them than those who didn't. The act of writing crystallizes your intentions and creates a roadmap for your actions. Without clear goals, your financial life is like a ship without a rudder, drifting wherever the currents take you. You might end up somewhere, but it probably won't be where you want to be. The rich set specific, measurable financial goals. They don't just say, I want to retire comfortably. They say, I want to have $2 million in my retirement account by age 60, and I'm going to contribute $1,000 a month to get there. They don't just say, I want to buy a house. They say, I want to save $60,000 for down payment on a $300,000 house in 3 years. Story. The goal that changed everything. David was 28 years old, working as an IT technician, earning $55,000 a year. He was doing okay paying his bills, having fun on weekends, going out with friends, but he felt like he was treading water. He had no savings, no investments, and no plan for the future. Every month was the same: earn, spend, repeat. He was going through the motions of life without any direction. One day, a financial advisor he met at a friend's party asked him a simple question: what do you want your life to look like in 10 years? David had never thought about it. He stammered something about wanting a house and a family, but he had no specifics. He realized he'd been so focused on the day-to-day that he'd never planned for the future. The advisor told him to go home and write down exactly what he wanted his life to look like in 10 years, with as much detail as possible. David did. He spent an entire evening thinking, writing, and dreaming. He wrote, I want to own a 3-bedroom house in a good school district. I want to have $100,000 in investments. I want to be debt-free except for my mortgage. I want to be married and have 1 child. I want to take my family on a 2-week vacation every year. I want to feel financially secure and not worry about money. Then the advisor helped him work backward from those goals to create specific numbers. To buy a $300,000 house with 20% down, he needed $60,000. To have $100,000 in investments in 10 years, he needed to save about $600 a month for 10 years at 8% returns. To be debt-free, he needed to pay off his $15,000 in student loans. With these specific numbers, David created a plan. He started saving $800 a month, $600 for investments, $200 for his house down payment. He increased his student loan payments to pay them off in 3 years instead of 10. He cut expenses, canceled and used subscriptions, started packing lunch, reduced eating out, and picked up a side gig doing IT consulting on weekends. The goals weren't always easy to follow. There were months when he wanted to splurge on something fun, or when an unexpected expense threatened to derail his plan. But he had his goals written on a card in his wallet and taped to his bathroom mirror. He saw them every day. They kept him focused. 8 years later, not 10, David achieved every single item on his list. He owned a house in a great neighborhood, had over $120,000 in investments, was debt-free except for his mortgage, was married with a toddler, and had just returned from a family vacation to Costa Rica. He was living the life he had written down 8 years earlier. The difference? He had a written goal with specific numbers and a deadline. He knew exactly what he was working toward, and he created a plan to get there. How to set financial goals. 1. Be specific. Save more money isn't a goal. Save $10,000 for an emergency fund by December 31 is. 2. Write them down. Put them somewhere you'll see them every day: your phone, your mirror, your wallet. 3. Break them into milestones. If you want to save $10,000 in a year, that's about $833 a month. Can you do that? If not, adjust the timeline or the amount. 4. Review them regularly. Check in on your progress monthly and make adjustments as needed. 5. Celebrate milestones. When you hit 25%, 50%, 75%, and 100% of your goal, celebrate. This keeps you motivated. 6. Make them smart, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Chapter 9. Complaining instead of taking action: the victim mentality vs. the ownership mentality. When things go wrong, and they always do, poor people tend to blame external factors. The economy, their boss, the government, bad luck, their upbringing, the school system, the rich. While these factors may be real and valid, focusing on them doesn't change your situation. It only keeps you stuck in a cycle of frustration and helplessness. Rich people take a different approach. They take ownership of their circumstances. They might not be able to control everything that happens to them, but they can control how they respond. Instead of complaining, they look for solutions. Instead of blaming, they adapt. Instead of asking why me, they ask what now. This isn't about ignoring systemic issues or pretending everything is fair. It's about recognizing that while you can't always control your circumstances, you can always control your response. And your response determines your outcome. The difference between the two mindsets is stark. The victim mentality says, "This happened to me, so I can't succeed." The ownership mentality says, "This happened to me, so I need to find a different way to succeed." One keeps you stuck. The other moves you forward. Story. The layoff that created a millionaire. Tom was a middle manager at a manufacturing company. He'd been there for 12 years and thought his job was secure. He'd done everything right: shown up on time, hit his targets, earned good reviews. He had a mortgage, 2 kids in school, and a wife who worked part-time. Then one Monday morning, he was called into a meeting and told his position was being eliminated. The company was restructuring. He was given 2 weeks severance and shown the door. Tom was devastated. He had a mortgage, 2 kids in school, and a wife who worked part-time. His first reaction was anger. He complained about the company, about the economy, about how unfair it was. He spent weeks updating his resume and applying for jobs, but nothing was panning out. The job market was tough, and at 42, he was competing against younger candidates who would work for less. After a month of wallowing, Tom's wife sat him down and said something that changed his life. "You can keep complaining, or you can do something about it. The world didn't end. We have options. But you need to choose one." Those words hit him hard. Tom realized he'd been waiting for someone to save him, another company to hire him, another boss to give him a chance. But no one was coming. He had to save himself. Tom decided to take a completely different approach. Instead of just applying for jobs, he looked at the situation as an opportunity. He'd always wanted to start his own consulting business, but he'd been too scared to leave his stable job. Now, The choice had been made for him. The stability he'd clung to for 12 years was an illusion, and now he was free to build something real. Tom used his severance to set up a basic website, created business cards, and started reaching out to his network. He offered consulting services to small manufacturers who needed help improving their operations, something he'd been doing informally at his old job for years. The first few months were tough: no clients, no income, lots of rejection. There were days he doubted everything. But he kept going. He took free online courses on marketing and sales. He reached out to former colleagues and asked for referrals. He offered free consultations to build his client base. Within a year, he had 15 regular clients and was earning more than he had at his old job. Within 3 years, he had hired 2 employees and was bringing in over $500,000 a year. Within 5 years, he had built $1 million business. Tom later said that losing his job was the best thing that ever happened to him. But it wouldn't have been if he'd stayed in victim mode. The layoff wasn't his fault, but the success that followed was entirely his choice. He stopped complaining and started building, and everything changed. The lesson: complaining is easy. Taking action is hard. But action is the only thing that changes your circumstances. The rich understand this. They don't waste time on what they can't control. They focus their energy on what they can do, and they do it. Next time something goes wrong, ask yourself, what can I do about this? Rather than, why did this happen to me? The shift in perspective can change your life. Chapter 10. Spending all their time working instead of building. The hamster wheel of trading time for money. There's a crucial difference between working hard and working smart. Poor people tend to spend all their time working, trading hours for dollars without ever building anything that works for them. They're on a hamster wheel. The faster they run, the more tired they get, but they never actually get anywhere. This often looks like working 60-hour weeks at a job, taking on extra shifts, or moonlighting at a second job, all without ever creating assets that generate income without their direct involvement. They're so busy earning money that they never take the time to build wealth. They're trading their most precious resource, time, for money, and they'll never get that time back. The rich work hard too, but they work hard on building things that eventually don't require their constant attention. They build businesses with employees, invest in real estate, create intellectual property, and develop systems that generate income whether they're working or not. They understand that time is the ultimate luxury, and they design their financial lives to buy back their time. Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, explains this with his concept of the cash flow quadrant. On the left side are employees, E, and self-employed, S, people who trade time for money. On the right side are business owners, B, and investors, I, people who make money from systems and assets. The goal is to move from the left side to the right side. Story: the 2 truck drivers, James and Robert, were both truck drivers earning similar salaries, about $60,000 a year. They worked for different companies and lived in the same neighborhood. But their financial trajectories looked completely different because of how they used their time outside of work. James worked as much overtime as he could. He drove weekends, holidays, and late nights. His paycheck was big, but so were his expenses. He had a nice truck, a big house, and lots of stuff. But he was always working, always tired, and always stressed. After 20 years of driving, he had a nice lifestyle but very little savings. His body was breaking down: bad back, sore knees, chronic fatigue, and he was starting to worry about retirement. If he couldn't drive, he couldn't earn. Robert worked regular hours but used his spare time differently. He started a small logistics consulting business on the side, helping new trucking companies set up efficient routes. He used his industry knowledge to create a consulting package and charged $150 per hour. He worked just 10 hours a month at first, earning an extra $1,500. He also wrote an ebook about the trucking industry, a practical guide for new drivers, and sold it online for $19.99. The book took him 3 months to write, but once it was done, it sold copies every day with no additional effort. Within a year, the ebook was generating $500 a month in passive income. With his savings, Robert invested in a small fleet of 2 trucks and hired drivers to operate them. The trucks generated income even when Robert wasn't driving. Within 5 years, he had expanded to 5 trucks. The business was running smoothly with employees handling the day-to-day operations, and Robert's role shifted from driver to owner. Robert also invested in rental properties, 2 duplexes that provided monthly income. And he invested in index funds through his retirement accounts. After 20 years, Robert owned a trucking company with 15 trucks, had passive income from his ebook and consulting business, owned 2 rental properties, and had a portfolio of investments worth over $1.2 million. He was a millionaire. He could stop working whenever he wanted. James was still driving now with a bad back and knees that ached every morning. He had no savings, no investments, and no exit strategy. He was trapped on the hamster wheel. The difference wasn't talent or intelligence. It was how they used their time. James spent his time working for money. Robert spent his time building things that made money. James traded time for dollars. Robert built systems that generated dollars independent of his time. The lesson: if you're spending all your time working and none of it building, you'll always be trading time for money. The rich build assets, businesses, investments, intellectual property that generate income independently. Start thinking about how you can build something that works for you, even when you're not working. This doesn't mean you need to quit your job tomorrow. It means using your evenings, weekends, and spare time to create something of value that can eventually replace your income. Start small. Build a side hustle. Invest consistently. Create something that can grow without your constant attention. Chapter 11. Having a short-term mindset: the power of delayed gratification. Poor people tend to make financial decisions based on short-term pleasure rather than long-term benefit. They choose immediate gratification over delayed gratification, and it costs them dearly over time. This shows up in many ways. Buying a $5 coffee every day instead of making it at home. Taking a vacation they can't afford instead of saving for a down payment. Buying new clothes every month instead of investing that money. Saying yes to every social invitation instead of setting boundaries. Choosing the cheaper, lower quality option instead of investing in something that lasts. The rich are masters of delayed gratification. They understand that sacrificing a little today can lead to huge rewards tomorrow. They're willing to live below their means now so they can live above their means later. They play the long game. This concept was famously demonstrated in the Stanford marshmallow experiment. Researchers gave children a choice: eat 1 marshmallow now, or wait 15 minutes and get 2 marshmallows. The children who waited, who exercised delayed gratification, tended to have better life outcomes decades later: higher test scores, better health, higher incomes, and lower rates of substance abuse. Story: the marshmallow test in real life. This plays out in real life too. Consider 2 friends, both earning $40,000 a year in their early 20s. Friend lives for today. He buys the latest clothes, eats out every day, goes on vacations with friends, and drives a nice car. He's popular and fun, and everyone thinks he's successful. He posts about his life on social media: restaurant meals, new outfits, weekend getaways. His friends admire his lifestyle. But he has $0 in savings, $10,000 in credit card debt, and no investments. His success is a facade financed by debt. Friend B lives for the future. She drives a used car, packs her lunch, limits her social spending, and invests $500 a month in index funds. She's seen as boring and frugal by her peers. She doesn't post about her life on social media because there's nothing exciting to post. But she has $15,000 in savings, no debt, and $50,000 in investments by age 30. Her net worth is growing every month. At age 40, Friend A is still working to pay off debt, driving a newer car he can barely afford, and stressed about money. He's living paycheck to paycheck despite earning a decent salary. He has no retirement savings and is starting to panic about the future. Friend B has over $500,000 in investments, owns her home outright, and has the freedom to work because she wants to, not because she has to. She could quit her job tomorrow and be fine for years. She sleeps well at night and feels in control of her life. Same income, completely different outcomes. All because of how they handled the present vs the future. The math of delayed gratification. Let's look at the numbers more concretely. If you spend $10 a day on lunch instead of bringing food from home, that's $300 a month or $3,600 a year. Invested at 8% for 30 years, the $300 a month becomes over $440,000. That daily $10 lunch is literally costing you almost $500,000 over your lifetime. When you see it that way, packing a sandwich suddenly seems a lot more appealing. Or consider this. If you skip investing $200 a month from age 25 to 35, 10 years, and then invest $200 a month from 35 to 65, 30 years, you'll end up with less money than if you had invested $200 a month from 25 to 35 and then stopped. The first 10 years of investing are worth more than the next 30 because of compound interest. That's the true cost of waiting. The lesson: delayed gratification is the superpower of the wealthy. They understand that the best things in life come to those who wait and plan. Every time you choose the long-term option over the short-term one, you're building wealth, even if it doesn't feel like it in the moment. The next time you're tempted to make an impulsive purchase, ask yourself, will this matter in 5 years? Will this help me reach my goals? If the answer is no, put the money towards something that will. Chapter 12. Surrounding yourself with people who don't grow the influence of your circle. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. This is a powerful truth that the rich understand and the poor often ignore. Jim Rohn, the famous motivational speaker, said this, and research supports it. Your social environment shapes your beliefs, habits, and behaviors, including your financial ones. If your friends are content with being average, you'll be content too. If your friends are ambitious and growing, you'll rise to their level. If your friends complain about money, you'll develop a negative relationship with money. If your friends talk about investments and opportunities, you'll start seeing them too. Poor people often surround themselves with people who share their financial struggles, but not their ambition to change. They commiserate about being broke, complain about their jobs, and reinforce the belief that money is hard to come by, or rich people are lucky, or the system is rigged. This creates a negative feedback loop that keeps everyone stuck. Everyone validates everyone else's excuses, and no one grows. The rich, by contrast, deliberately seek out people who challenge them, inspire them, and push them to grow. They join mastermind groups, attend networking events, and build relationships with people who are where they want to be. They understand that proximity is power. Being around successful people makes success seem more achievable and more normal. Story: the neighborhood effect. Consider 2 men, both factory workers in the same town. Both earned $45,000 a year. Both had families. But their social circles were very different, and so were their futures. Mike's friends were all coworkers who spent their weekends drinking beer, watching sports, and complaining about their jobs. They talked about how the company didn't pay enough, how the government was unfair, how the economy was rigged, and how they'd never get ahead. Their solution to financial stress was to work more overtime, play the lottery, or hope for a lucky break. They spent their evenings watching TV and their weekends at bars. They reinforced each other's belief that financial success was impossible for people like them. Tom's friends were a mix of coworkers and people he met at a local business networking group and a financial literacy meetup. They talked about side hustles, investment opportunities, and personal development. They shared books, recommended courses, and held each other accountable for their goals. Their solution to financial stress was to find ways to earn more, reduce expenses strategically, or invest wisely. They spent their evenings learning and their weekends building. Over 15 years, Mike's life looked exactly the same. Same job, same struggles, same complaints. He had no savings, no investments, and no plan. He was exactly where he started. Tom's life was completely different. He had started a successful side business, a consulting service for small manufacturers, and invested in real estate. He owned 3 rental properties that generated monthly income. He had a substantial investment portfolio. He was financially independent at 45, able to retire whenever he chose. The difference wasn't talent or luck. It was the people around them. Mike surrounded himself with people who stayed stuck. Tom surrounded himself with people who grew. And they grew accordingly. How to upgrade your circle. 1. Join groups related to your goals. If you want to build wealth, join investment clubs, business groups, or financial literacy meetups. 2. Find mentors. Seek out people who are where you want to be and learn from them. Most successful people are happy to share their knowledge. 3. Limit time with people who drain you. You don't have to cut people off, but you can choose how much time and energy you spend with them. 4. Be the kind of person you want to attract. If you want ambitious friends, be ambitious yourself. If you want financially savvy friends, become financially savvy. 5. Use online communities. If you can't find the right people locally, join online forums, Facebook groups, or Discord servers focused on personal finance and wealth building. The lesson: your social circle has a massive impact on your financial outcomes. The rich surround themselves with growth-minded people who inspire and challenge them. If you want to change your financial life, start by changing the people you spend time with, or at least the ones you listen to. Chapter 13. Ignoring the Power of Compound Interest. The eighth wonder of the world. Albert Einstein reportedly called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. Whether or not he actually said this, the principle is true. Compound interest is one of the most powerful forces in finance, and ignoring it is one of the biggest mistakes poor people make. Compound interest means earning interest on your interest. When you invest money and it earns a return, that return starts earning returns too. Over time, this creates exponential growth that can turn small amounts of money into fortunes. It's like a snowball rolling down a hill, small at first, but growing larger and faster the further it goes. Poor people tend to ignore this because the results aren't dramatic in the short term. Investing $200 a month might only earn $10 in interest the first year. That doesn't feel exciting. You can barely buy lunch with $10. But over 30 years, the $200 a month grows to over $300,000 without you ever contributing more than $72,000. That's the magic of compound interest. It turns small, consistent contributions into large sums over time. The rich understand this and use it to their advantage. They start investing early, invest consistently, reinvest their returns, and let time do the heavy lifting. They understand that the most powerful force in building wealth isn't a high salary or a hot stock tip, it's compound interest working over decades. Story: the 2 brothers Michael and David were brothers, both starting their careers at age 22. Both had similar jobs, similar salaries, and similar ambitions. But they made one very different choice about when to start investing. Michael started investing immediately, putting $300 a month into low-cost index funds. He didn't wait until he made more money or learned enough about investing. He just started. He automated the contributions so he didn't have to think about it. He treated it like a bill, non-negotiable. David planned to start later. When I make more money, he said. When I pay off my car. When things settle down. There was always a reason to wait. He was making $45,000 a year, and felt like he didn't have enough to invest. He figured he'd catch up later when he was earning more. Michael invested consistently for 10 years, from age 22 to 32. He contributed a total of $36,000. Then, at 32, he stopped contributing entirely and just let the money grow. He had other priorities: a house, kids, expenses, but the $36,000 he'd already invested continued to compound. David started investing at age 32, putting in $300 a month for the next 33 years until age 65. He contributed a total of $118,800, more than 3 times as much as Michael. At age 65, Who had more money? Michael, with his $36,000 in contributions, had approximately $1.1 million. David, with his $118,800 in contributions, had approximately $880,000. Michael had more money despite investing a fraction of what David did, all because he started 10 years earlier. Those extra 10 years of compound interest made all the difference. Michael's money had more time to grow, and the compound effect was dramatic. The lesson: compound interest rewards patience and consistency. The longer your money is invested, the more it grows. This is why starting early is so important and why waiting is so costly. Every year you delay is a year of compound growth you'll never get back. Don't let the small numbers discourage you. Even $50 a month, invested consistently over decades, can build significant wealth. The key is to start now and let time do the heavy lifting. Remember, the best time to start investing was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Chapter 14. Not taking care of their health. The financial cost of poor health. Health and wealth are deeply connected. Poor health leads to higher medical bills, missed work days, reduced productivity, and a shorter lifespan. Yet many poor people neglect their health, eating poorly, avoiding exercise, skipping doctor visits, and ignoring mental health. This isn't always their fault. Healthy food is often more expensive than processed food. Gym memberships cost money. Doctor visits add up, especially without good insurance. Mental health care is stigmatized and expensive. These are real barriers that shouldn't be dismissed. But the rich prioritize health because they understand that it's an investment, not an expense. They eat well, exercise regularly, get preventive care, and take care of their mental health. They know that their health is their most valuable asset. If they lose it, no amount of money can replace it. Consider the math. A heart attack can cost $50,000 or more in medical bills. Diabetes costs an average of $9,600 per year in medical expenses. Depression and anxiety lead to lost productivity and increased health care costs. On the other hand, a healthy person saves thousands in medical expenses, earns more through higher productivity, and lives longer to enjoy their wealth. The rich understand this connection. They view health spending as an investment with a high return. A gym membership, healthy food, preventive care, and mental health support aren't expenses, they're investments that pay dividends in the form of lower medical costs, higher productivity, and a longer, more enjoyable life. Story: the CEO's daily routine. Sarah was the CEO of a successful tech company, earning over $500,000 a year. But she wasn't always wealthy. She grew up in a low-income neighborhood where fast food was the norm and doctors were for emergencies only. Her family ate processed food, rarely exercised, and thought of healthcare as a luxury. When Sarah started her career, she worked 80-hour weeks, survived on vending machine food and fast food, and hadn't seen a doctor in 5 years. She was productive, but she was also exhausted, overweight, and constantly stressed. She was making good money but was spending it faster than she earned it on takeout, energy drinks, and stress-related shopping. Her health was deteriorating, and she didn't even realize it. One day, she collapsed at her desk. Her assistant called 911. At the hospital, the news was grim. A doctor told her she had pre-diabetes, high blood pressure, and severe burnout. She was 35 years old, and her body was breaking down. She was literally working herself to death. Sarah made a decision. She hired a nutritionist, started exercising 3 times a week, began therapy to address her stress and workaholism, and prioritized sleep. It wasn't easy. It took time and money she didn't think she had. But she did it anyway, because she realized that without her health, none of her success mattered. Within a year, she lost 30 pounds, her blood pressure normalized, and her energy levels soared. She became more productive, more creative, and more effective as a leader. She made better decisions because she was thinking clearly. She slept better because she was healthier. Her relationships improved because she wasn't constantly irritable and exhausted. Her company's revenue doubled in the next 3 years. She attributes much of that growth to her improved health and clarity of mind. Sarah realized that her health wasn't just a personal issue, it was a business issue. When she was healthy, she performed better. When she performed better, she earned more. The investment in her health had the highest return of any investment she'd ever made. The lesson: your health is your wealth. You can't enjoy financial success if you're too sick to enjoy life. The rich understand this and prioritize their health as a financial strategy. Start small, eat one healthy meal a day. Take a 20-minute walk, schedule a checkup, talk to a therapist. These small investments in your health will pay dividends for decades. Chapter 15. Waiting for the right time to start. The myth of the perfect moment. Perhaps the most common and destructive thing poor people do is wait. They wait for the right time to start investing. They wait for the right time to start a business. They wait for the right time to get out of debt. They wait for the right time to change careers. They wait for the right time to learn about money. They wait for the right time to take action on their dreams. The problem? The right time never comes. There will always be a reason to wait. The economy is uncertain. You don't have enough money. You're too busy. You're not ready. You need to learn more first. The kids are young. The kids are teenagers. The kids are grown. There's always something. The rich don't wait for the perfect moment. They start before they're ready. They invest before they feel wealthy. They start businesses before they have all the answers. They learn as they go. They understand that imperfect action is infinitely better than perfect inaction. A step in the wrong direction is better than standing still, because at least you can correct course once you're moving. The fear of failure keeps many people frozen. They're so afraid of making the wrong choice that they make no choice at all. But inaction is itself a choice, and it's usually the worst one. Every day you wait is a day of potential growth lost. Every year you delay is a year of compound interest foregone. Every opportunity you don't take is a door that closes. Story. The woman who started with $50. Carmen was 45 years old, working as a hotel housekeeper, earning $28,000 a year. She had $0 in savings, $3,000 in credit card debt, and a dream of owning her own cleaning business. She'd been thinking about it for years, but always found reasons to wait. I need more money first. I don't know anything about business. I should take a class first. What if I fail? What will people think? I'm too old to start over. I'll do it when things settle down. One day, Carmen's 16-year-old daughter asked her, "Mom, why don't you start your business? You always talk about it." Carmen gave her usual excuses. Her daughter replied, "But you've been saying that for 5 years. When are you going to start?" That question haunted Carmen. She realized she was waiting for conditions that would never be perfect. She'd been using fear as an excuse, dressing it up as practicality. She realized that the only thing standing between her and her dream was action. So she decided to start anyway. She had $50 in her checking account. She used it to print 200 business cards at a local print shop. She made a simple flyer using free software and posted it in apartment buildings, community centers, and laundromats. She told her coworkers, her neighbors, and her friends about her new cleaning business. She was scared, but she did it anyway. Her first client was a neighbor who paid her $80 to clean her apartment. Carmen did such a good job that the neighbor told 3 friends. Those 3 friends told 3 more. Within a month, she had 8 regular clients. She reinvested every dollar back into the business: better cleaning supplies, more flyers, a simple website. She cleaned apartments on her days off from the hotel. It was exhausting. She was working 7 days a week, but she could see her dream taking shape, and that gave her energy. Within 3 months, she had 10 regular clients and was earning $2,000 a month from her cleaning business, almost as much as her hotel job. Within 6 months, she had 20 clients and was earning more from her business than from her job. She quit the hotel and went full-time with her cleaning business. Within a year, she had hired her first employee. She taught her the cleaning methods and quality standards she developed. She focused on getting more clients and providing excellent service. Her reputation grew through word of mouth. 5 years later, Carmen employed 3 people and had annual revenue of $150,000. She had paid off her credit card debt, built a $20,000 emergency fund, started contributing to a retirement account, and was looking at buying her first rental property. She was living a life she'd only dreamed about, all because she stopped waiting and started doing. She didn't wait until she had all the answers. She didn't wait until she had more money. She didn't wait until she felt ready. She started with $50 and a willingness to try. The lesson: the perfect time to start is now. Not tomorrow, not next month, not when you have more money or more knowledge or more time. Now. Start with whatever you have. Start before you're ready. Start scared. Start messy. Just start. The rich understand that progress comes from action, not preparation. They don't wait for permission or certainty. They take the first step and figure out the rest along the way. And that first step, no matter how small, is what separates those who build wealth from those who only dream about it. Conclusion: small changes, big results. If you've read this far, you might be feeling a mix of emotions. Maybe you recognize yourself in some of these patterns. Maybe you feel overwhelmed by how many changes you need to make. Maybe you're excited about the possibilities. Maybe you're a little uncomfortable with the truth. All of these reactions are normal. Here's the good news: you don't have to change everything at once. The difference between rich and poor isn't usually one big decision, it's hundreds of small decisions made consistently over time. Wealth isn't built in a day. It's built in thousands of small moments where you choose to save instead of spend, to invest instead of consume, to learn instead of ignore, to act instead of complain. Start with one thing. Maybe it's creating a budget. Maybe it's reading a book about money. Maybe it's setting up automatic savings. Maybe it's starting that side business you've been dreaming about. Maybe it's cutting up a credit card. Maybe it's having a conversation with your partner about money. Whatever it is, start today. Remember the stories we shared in this article. Marcus and Lisa went from living paycheck to having $3,000 in savings within 6 months, all because they tracked their spending for 1 month. Darnell went from a $680 car payment to having $100,000 in investments because he sold his Audi and bought a used Camry. Angela went from feeling trapped as a receptionist to building wealth through investments, all because she read a $15 book. Derek and Tanya weathered a $2,800 car repair without stress because they had an emergency fund built with just $150 per paycheck. Rachel went from one income stream to 5, giving herself financial freedom and options. Worker B turned a $5,000 annual raise into over $500,000 by investing instead of spending. Sarah paid off her student loans in 4 years and built $80,000 in investments by living below her means. Tom went from being a laid-off middle manager to a $1 million business owner because he chose action over complaint. Robert built $1.2 million in wealth over 20 years by using his spare time to build assets instead of working overtime. Friend B accumulated $500,000 by age 40 by practicing delayed gratification. Tom the factory worker achieved financial independence at 45 by surrounding himself with growth-minded people. Michael accumulated $1.1 million by starting to invest 10 years earlier than his brother. Sarah the CEO doubled her company's revenue after investing in her health. Carmen went from a $50 start to a $150,000 business because she stopped waiting. None of these people were born wealthy. None of them had special advantages. They all started exactly where you are now. The only difference is that they chose to change. You can too. Start small. Be consistent. Be patient. And never stop learning. The journey to financial freedom begins with a single step, and that step is available to you right now, today, in this moment. The rich don't have secrets you don't know about. They have habits you haven't adopted yet. Today, you've learned those habits. Now it's time to put them into action. Your future self is counting on you. Don't let them down. Summary: 15 things poor people do that the rich don't. 1. Living paycheck to paycheck without a plan. 2. Buying things to impress others. 3. Avoiding financial education. 4. Having no emergency fund. 5. Relying on a single income stream. 6. Putting consumption before investment. 7. Having a poor relationship with debt. 8. Not setting clear financial goals. 9. Complaining instead of taking action. 10. Spending all their time working instead of building. 11. Having a short-term mindset. 12. Surrounding yourself with people who don't grow. 13. Ignoring the power of compound interest. 14. Not taking care of their health. 15. Waiting for the right time to start. Change these patterns, and you'll change your financial life. The power is in your hands.